What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for joining Just Talking today. Today, I'm going to be just talking to you with just me in my room, in my apartment, hanging out, talking to you about all of the things. But the biggest thing that I want to talk to you about is how so many of us struggle to be able to say what it is that we really need and to be able to be completely and utterly honest with others and ourselves. I call this speaking your truth, right? And I think that I honestly have never met anybody who hasn't experienced the struggle of this before. And the struggle could show up in a relationship, in a friendship, in a job, and most likely with yourself, right? Where we're not really honest even with ourselves about what it is that we really want, what it is that we really need, and just, being able to voice that. I can't tell you how many women I talk to, and like you can just see that this is the very first time they've ever said something, right? And they'll say that, like, oh my gosh, like I've never even said this out loud before. Like I've never even let myself like say it before. I'm like, yes, girl, yes. Like give yourself permission to say what it is that you want to say and to claim what it is that you want to claim, to go ahead and say, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I desire, and I'm worthy of it. And I think that there is such a shift that has to happen in ourselves to be able to say that and to be able to do that. Because I don't believe that we're naturally just like taught that, especially for like women, right? Like I think that for so many of us, we're just taught to kind of go with the flow, like don't cause too much, because if you're too much of a person, then you're going to be drama, then you're just like whatever it is, like there's all these identities like wrapped around that. And so many women struggle just to be speaking their truth and to say what it is they really want to say, or they feel like if they claim what they want to claim, then they're stuck up, they're bratty, whatever that word is, or that feeling that's wrapped up around that. And so they won't claim that. And that's even with their own self-love and their own receiving of that love. And that's even something that I struggle with and that I have to practice and teach. And I think that's the beauty of this, is all parts of self-love is all a practice, and it's all learning it and then creating the habits to do that, right? It's just like anything else. And so with that being said, like remember to give yourself grace through this process. That's something that I can definitely struggle with, because I love to have things happen like right now, and I want to see results like right now, and I get upset if not, right? But it's that surrender part where it's like trusting in that process and trying to be patient as you can, and enjoying the ride of the journey, because you know that every little step is teaching you something throughout that process, right? So with that, it's that every part of that, anything that you've gone through right now, is to help you to see when you don't speak your truth, what happens, right? Because you've got this feeling, you have this inside of you where you're like, oh my gosh, like what I really want to do is this. Or maybe that voice is so quiet because you have shut that voice up so much that it doesn't even know how to think for itself anymore. It doesn't even know how to really speak. It's just like a very small whisper, like, and you're like, what was that? What'd you say? And so you're trying to find that voice again. And I've been there too. And I talk to so many women who are in that space still, where they're like, I honestly like don't know what I like to do. I honestly don't know what I want. I don't. And they just keep saying, I don't know. And I'm like, but you do know, baby, you just have to start to let yourself hear what it is that you need to hear. And I can't tell you how often this happens for me. It's like where you see what you need to see when you need to see it, and you hear what you need to hear when you're ready to hear it. And that's even how our bodies work. That's even how our brains work, right? Like anybody who's ever gone through a significant trauma in their life, and that trauma could be up to them what that trauma is, right? That trauma could be a divorce, a car accident, losing a job, a divorce. Like I said that twice. Moving, maybe a friendship ending, or just anything like that, whatever that may look like for them. It could even be something small, like just whatever that may be for you. But so think about that. And what happens is we don't really fully process it in the moment. We kind of like learn how to shove it down. We learn how to just exist through it. We learn how to survive, essentially, right? And that's what we're taught, is how to survive, not how to thrive in those circumstances. And so what happens is then our body won't even allow that to come up to the surface until we're actually ready to be able to process it and to understand it. That happens a ton with significant like emotional abuse or anything like that too, right? Where you learn how to kind of function in that sense, rather than being able to process it live time. And so you figure out how to disassociate and how to just like survive. That's what I'm talking about with that. And so your body won't even allow you to let things come up to the surface. You're not going to hear what you need to hear or see what you need to see until you're really ready for it. And that has to become a decision where you're like, okay, I'm ready to sit in this ride and this journey and process it as long as it takes, and to give yourself that grace through it. And just recently, I thought that I had healed so much from parts of my divorce and my marriage and everything. And then there's like a whole new chapter that just got lifted for me. And it's that I think that sometimes you don't heal from certain parts of it until you're really ready for it. And like, you could think that you're so healed and you're like, what? Like, why am I revisiting this? Like, what's happening? Like, I thought this was all over with. And it's just that you're now ready to heal from a different layer that where you're not speaking your truth in that layer, how it's continuously affected you. Because how you do one thing is how you do all things. So if you're hurting in one area, that's bleeding out into everything else that you do. So if you can't speak your truth in a friendship, that's definitely showing up for you in any other part of your relationships, and even within yourself. If you're really good at maybe speaking your truth, but you're not really good at following through with it and creating the boundaries so you can, be like, yeah, like this is what I'm doing and I'm going to follow through with it, then that's also happening within for yourself, with others, with your job, with everything that you do. And what that looks like could be so different for you, but maybe that you really want to be accepted and you want to be really loved, and you're struggling that within yourself. And so you're seeking acceptance from every other part of your life so you can like try to fill up that worth, because that still is something that you need. And so you're going to figure out how to fill up that need, but you might be filling it up the wrong way. And so when you look at that, you're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like this need has constantly showed up for me, and how I've gotten it filled has not actually fulfilled me. And that could be where you become the person that does all the extra hours at work. You take on all the tasks, you do all the organization, you do everything, you're not seen for it. And you won't speak your truth to say like, no, I'm not going to do this any longer. I'm getting taken advantage of. I don't feel valued. I don't feel seen. Because we would do that if you feel valued and seen. It's crazy what we as humans and what anybody will do if you just feel like you're getting actually valued for what it is that you're doing, if you're getting that love filled from that and being seen for that. And I've seen that happen time and time again. And we need that for ourselves, right? And so if we're not getting that, then it goes into like, well, why am I not enough to receive that? And that turns into the whole self-love sabotage cycle. But that's also part of not speaking your truth. So like, this is why this is such a foundational principle, essentially, that I teach and that I coach on, and that I believe in so firmly, is that it relates into every part of your life, because it shows up for you in every part of your life. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be like so out of balance all the times. Maybe it's just a little bit out of balance where you're semi speaking your truth, but you still don't really know what your truth really is, right? And so kind of going backwards a little bit to helping people be able to hear that voice when they've shut that voice off for so long, is to really go in and stop saying, I don't know. And just this week, actually, I was on a call and I was doing a mastermind call with some amazing, beautiful women. And I was talking to one of the girls, and I was like, well, what is it that would help you to feel like you could love yourself? Like, how could you give yourself the permission to do that? And she had sat there for a second, and she's like, I don't know. I really don't know. And I just kept staring there, and she was waiting for me to stop, to kind of shift and like ask another question. But sometimes silence is the best thing that you can ever do. And so I just sat there and just kept looking at her and just smiling, just holding this space that, like, and it's okay. Like, I'm going to hear you out. Whatever you say, I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm going to honor you for it. And just sitting there with that, right? And she started, more and more started coming out of her. And she's like, well, and it just kept coming. I'm like, yeah, keep going. Yeah, that's good. I love that. Tell me more about that. And it was just so powerful, because you were able to see for her, like, the light switch turned on, that she does know. She just had to let herself sit and let it come up. Because when that voice starts to come up, we get afraid of it and we push it down, and we're like, oh, like, I don't know if I could say that. Like, I don't know if I'm worthy of that. Like, what would people think about that if I really said that? And that's so normal. So that's so normal, right? Because we are designed creatures to want to feel accepted and to feel loved. Like, we need that. That's literally part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's part of our own self-love needs. It's part of just of the world. Like, you want to be accepted. That's totally okay. Think about when a baby is born, the baby cries out to immediately be held and accepted. And we all want that. We all just want to be held and then like, girl, you're so enough. Like, I love you. You're so amazing. That's why hugs feel so great, right? And they're so powerful. And so it's just sitting in that space, though, allowing yourself to have the silence to get to know yourself again and to say like, well, what is it that I do know? Because you do know. And so I invite you, if you often say, I don't know, I want you to stop for a second and ask yourself, what do I know? Do I like this feeling? Do I want more of this feeling? Do I like this energy that I'm around? Do I want more of it or less of it? Do I like all these people that I'm around? Do they make me feel empowered or do they make me feel disempowered? Like, what is it that I do know right now in this moment? And start to flip that. And our brains can't operate on an unanswered question. They literally can't. They're trying to find all these files. So when you ask yourself a question, your brain, like literally that Inside Out movie, it's literally so true. That's how our brains honestly work. When you ask it a question, it goes to go find all the files that you need to try to answer it. And if you haven't put that file in your brain to be able to answer it yet, it starts to try to find it to make the story for you, because it knows that you can't operate with an unanswered question. So it's going to find that for you. And so if you ask yourself, like, well, what is it that I do know? Your brain's going to start to help you find those answers versus I don't know. Because I don't know is just a statement. It's not a question, right? So start to ask yourself, what do I know? And do I want to know? What do I want to know? And that's such the beauty of life, is that everything that we know up to this point, we've learned. Literally, you've learned it, right? Just recently, I did an interview, and it was for this job actually that I was thinking about going for and taking. And they asked me like why I didn't finish out my degree, and like how could I have learned some of these skills that they felt that were so important, right? And I was like, yeah, like I absolutely understand. I totally believe in education 100%. But that just wasn't for me. Like, one of my things is that one of my rules I live by is integrity. Like, I have to honor myself. And like, if I'm not going to be 100% invested in something, it's just a no for me. I'm an all in or I'm all out kind of a person. And that's part of my truth. And I have to speak my truth regardless, because that for me is so important to me. That's my own integrity, because I lived for so long never speaking my truth, just going along with what I felt like was going to help me be accepted or be loved, rather than being able to really speak my truth and to know what my truth actually is. Like, I never really asked myself questions or asked like, well, why do I believe in that? Why does that affect me? Why does this trigger me? And then when I was able to start to sit in that and ask myself those questions, that's when I was really able to start to get super real with myself. I was able to start to really honestly deal with life, like, and deal with me and find me, right? And then I was able to really feel like I didn't realize how much I had cut off certain feelings, because that was part of that little voice. Like, when you cut off that voice that helps you know and speak your truth, is your part of that is cutting off some of your feelings, because you're not being true to you. And so you feel this like this huge disconnect, because this truth of you, of who you truly are, of who you're created are, is right here. And it's like you're having this like outer body experience, right? Where you're like, well, this is what I want to say, but I don't know if I can say this. Like, and you overguess it, you overthink it, you overanalyze it. You're so worried if you're going to still be accepted or not, right? And that's part of that process, is letting that go and being so okay with who you are that you're okay to speak your truth. And that doesn't mean that when you speak your truth, you're like this crazy bitch and you're just like, oh, well, excuse me, this is what I say. No, it's learning how to be okay to disagree as well, and to know that, and your truth can change, right? Like, what's true for you now might not be true for you in 3 years. And Jay Shetty actually asks that all the time on his podcast. And I can't remember exactly how he words it, but I love how he says it, is that, he says something along these lines. So I'm going to not get it exactly verbatim, but what is something that you thought to be so true for you, you were so adamant about, that you've recently changed? And I love that he asks that, because I think that's the key in evaluating within yourself. Like, what is it that I've questioned in myself, and what is it that I've grown in myself. And that doesn't mean that everything you question, that means that you have to change or constantly be changing what your truth is. But I think it's so important to question why it is you believe in something, or why you won't do something, and why it is that you want something. Because if you're not, then you're not speaking part of your truth with that, right? And so before, it was like, one of the things that I believed in so much was that I was afraid if I spoke my truth, I would be rejected, and I would be way too vulnerable. I'd be too much. I'd be too emotional. I would be pushed away. And I changed that for myself by learning how to speak my truth, and to change that storyline and see that, well, when I speak my truth, I accept me because I'm actually being true to me. And so I'm proud of me. I honor me. I love me. And so then it doesn't become where I'm getting this need filled from everybody else. And then I'm people pleasing constantly because I'm seeking out their approval. So me speaking my truth, I changed that from thinking if I speak my truth, then I'm a brat and I'm going to hurt all these people's feelings, and it's going to be this big disservice to everybody else. And so then I was trying to please them, right? But then I wasn't being true to myself in that. And so when I realized that and was able to flip that and say, when I speak my truth, I'm true to me, I honor me, and I have more truth to honor in others, and more weight and more love to love in others, because I'm also able to see their truth. And I'm also able to see that their truth doesn't have to be my truth, and that we can all disagree, but we can agree, and that I can honor them for the season that they're in, or whatever phase of life they're in, just like I want them to honor me. Because before, my truth of what I thought could be true made me show up in different ways, right? Like my truth was, I'm only loved and accepted if I do what others want from me. And so I showed up in different ways that wasn't best for me, that didn't hurt, that didn't make me be my best me. And then I hurt other people because I was mad at myself. This is why this is such a cycle, and how it goes into everything that we do, right? And so this is why I love helping women bring up, like, what is it that you really want? Like, what is it that you really want to say? What do you really want to be seen for? And that was part of me, is in my, like I brought up earlier, a different level of healing that I'm having from my divorce, is that part of like me was speaking my truth in that. And that took a long time for us to get to even that, where I wasn't able to say what I even needed, because I didn't really even know what it was that I needed. I wasn't able to really voice that. And so when I started to learn what it was that I needed, I still didn't speak that, because I was so afraid that if I did, I was going to hurt someone's feelings or hurt his feelings, or I didn't know how to address that, how to bring that emotion up to life. And so we had done a lot of therapy and like talked about a lot of that stuff. And then after, obviously, we got divorced, brought up stuff. But just recently, it's made me realize, like, part of that was that I didn't trust myself, and because I didn't trust that. I didn't trust like parts of him, and I didn't trust that I could speak my truth of that. And so then I almost like made it set up to see that storyline continue to play, and it made me like lose respect, and it made me and instead of saying that and like voicing that, be like, hey, like this really hurt me, and I really need to be vulnerable with you right now. Like I really needed you to show up for me in this way, and this is what it meant to me, and this is why it was so important to me, and then this is what happened, and this is how I'm taking it internally, and like this is the dialogue that's happening in here right now. Like help me kind of navigate through this, and I want you to know like what's happening. But instead, I was so afraid of ever doing that I just would completely disconnect, and I would never even speak up, and I would just like literally would go like days without talking. And that became like normal for me, was to just like take it all internally, like get really upset, be super resentful, be a brat, not talk for a few days, and then like just be like, okay, well, let's just come back and pretend like it never happened. But then it was like that truth kept getting pushed down, and my voice kept going away. And then I kept losing respect for myself. And in return, that showed up in the relationship with it too, right? Because I wasn't being honest with myself and true to myself, if that makes sense in this roundabout way. And so I'm seeing that in a different way for me, and I'm healing from that in a different way. And because of that, I've been tested so much in the last like couple weeks of speaking my truth and like doing it like in the moment, and asking it to myself, like, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Like, what's going on? Where am I at right now with this? Like, why are you afraid to speak this? And asking myself, like, what is it that I need right now for that? And part of it is just so much of like my ego, honestly, is she's such a little bitch, you know? Like, she just is. And from me not speaking my truth, the storyline that I made with that was that it's so much better for me just to try to do things on my own, because if I ask for help, I get let down, and then I can't respect other people. I can't love other people. And that became the storyline in my marriage, was that for me, that, I would make these little situations happen, and because I didn't speak my truth, so my expectation was this, but I never mentioned that or said that, or like let him know like what that was. And then I'd get so let down and so pissed off. And then the storyline was like, yeah, just, it's so much better for you to do things on your own, disconnect, push away, figure it out on your own. And because I did that in one part of my life, I did that in all parts of my life. Like, I pushed other people away rather than when I really needed them, like ever letting them in. Everything else was so surface, because I felt like in my eyes, like if I spoke what I needed and talked about what I was going through, I was just going to be too much. And it was better for me just to figure it all out on my own rather than ask for help. And that was part of me speaking my truth, was like, I was so afraid to ask for help because I was afraid of what that made me look like, right? Rather than just being like, hey, like, I'm super struggling right now. This is what's up. And here's where I'm at emotionally. Here's what's coming up for me. I need to speak to you about like how this is hurting me. And vulnerability is the most powerful thing that we can do, right? But it took me so long to do that because I wasn't true to me, because I was creating this wrong storyline for myself. Like, you got to do it on your own, sister. And that wasn't true. And the more and more this comes up for me is like, it's all these circumstances and times where it's, I'm not asking for help when I need it, and I'm not being true to myself. And then it makes me show up bad because I'm not being true and I'm disconnected from myself. And so then that disconnects me from other things, because honestly, guys, how you do one thing is how you do all things, right? And so it's just speaking my truth all the time. And I teach this, right? I still have to practice it. And just because I teach it, like, I'm still going through this on all these different levels constantly. And to me, that's the beautiful thing, is that that's growth. But I talk to so many women, and I can see it because I've been there, because I feel it, because I understand it. And you can just see they want to speak it so bad, but it's even like they'll try to talk in their voice. They literally are like choked up. And, that is like that their chakra has been closed. They haven't been able to allow themselves to speak that truth to themselves. And it breaks my heart, because I'll talk to women who are in their 60s and that's what's going on. Like, how much longer are you going to allow yourself to not be true to yourself? And what is that really doing to you? And what is that impacting and all the people around you too? Like, because that's making you show up not your best self in every other area too, in some degree, right? And so it's going back and being able to look at that and being aware to that. And then once you're aware to it, when it shows up for you again in a different form, because it can and it will, and the universe will keep giving you that lesson. And then it's like, okay, wait, I've seen this movie. Whoa, stop. Okay, I remember this. Like, what is it that I'm not being true to myself in right now? Like, because sometimes we can get so busy that we're not practicing that. And so it's checking in and like, okay, where am I not being true to me right now? And ask yourself that, and then give yourself permission to hear yourself and to see that, and to talk about what that looks like for you. Like, maybe you don't trust yourself because you don't trust yourself enough to speak your truth, right? Like, that is like part of the foundation. It's like, and the foundation of self-love is the foundation of the same parts in so many other areas of your relationships. Because if you can't do it with you, how can you do it with someone else, right? And that's the biggest part, because otherwise you're expecting someone else to teach you and to do it for you. Essentially, it's good to have ask someone to help mentor you and teach you in it, but you can't expect them to give you it. You can't expect them to do that for you. You have to find it all within. And I absolutely know that to be true. And that doesn't mean though that you have to do it all alone. And that was the difference for me, is that, oh, I need to find all this self-love for me. I have to do it all. Like, I have to validate all myself. But that doesn't mean that you have to be alone to do that. And that doesn't mean that you have to do it all alone. That means that you learn how to ask what it is that you need, because that's part of your speaking of your truth. It means that you're able to be honest with the people around you and asking for support and for that love and that guidance. Like, even as simple as a diet, like, hey, I'm going to start this diet and I could really use your guys' love and support for me. Like, I know I've said I'm going to do a diet 17,000 times, like for the last 2,700 Mondays, but you know what? This time it's different. And this is why it's so different. I hope you can see that's so different, because I'm even asking for support and I've never done that before. And so what that support may look like, and that's up to you to ask yourself, like, what does support look like for you? What does that mean for you? And only you know what that answer is. And so speak that, like, hey, you know what, that could really mean, like, when we're having family barbecues, that don't try to offer me the brownies, because I'm honestly going to be a little too weak and I'm going to want that. That also could be like, hey, if you see some improvements in me, could you maybe just give me a shout out? Like, could you celebrate me? Because I could really love to see that. It's okay to say that. That doesn't mean that you're a brat. That doesn't mean anything. That means that that's part of your love language, is words of affirmation. Perfect. Let people around you know how they can show the love for you. And that was part for me, was that what I was really seeking and how I really got my love tank full, I wasn't acknowledging, because I wasn't being true to me. I hope that makes sense, is that when you're not true to you, you're not going to be true to others, like for what you need. And then you're going to put this expectation, and it's just going to create this big cycle. And that's how it works. Right. And so I think you guys can understand that. I hope that you guys can understand that. And so I want just to invite you guys to really think about, how am I not being true to me right now? Like, and that's where you're able to then heal. And that's where you need to go. And that's what my philosophy in coaching is. Like, if I was to coach you through this process, that would be, we'd have this kind of a conversation, and I'd sit there with you and I'd help you stop saying, I don't know, and help you find what you do know. Right. And then learning the skill of speaking it, because just because you find it doesn't mean you now have the skill to speak it. Right. So again, everything that you have learned up to this point, you've figured it out, you've learned it. So now if you're trying to learn a new level of yourself, you have to learn that too and practice it. So you have to seek out that mentorship of how you're seeing that in others, so they can help teach you and guide you along that way. And that's the beauty of having a coach, is that they've been there and they figured out different things that have helped them, but then they're helping you find what works for you, because it's not just a one-way ticket, but there is some universal fundamentals that help you get there. And that's the beauty of teaching. And my philosophy is, number one, you have to get real. Like, you got to start speaking your truth to me. And if you can do that with me, then you can learn how to do it with others. And that's part of that practice, is like, speak it. Like, I want to hear it. There's no judgment. This is the safest place of all time. Like, you do whatever you need to do. You can say whatever you want to say, and it just stays here. And that's fine. And how good did that feel? Now, what if that part of that truth is really true for you? And asking those questions, right? And then it's understanding, like, well, what is my truth? Like, what do I want it to be true for me? And is that helping me or hurting me? Like, what's empowering me or disempowering me, right? And so that's where you get really real. And that's step one of my philosophy. That's part of my process that I teach in my group coaching program, in all my coaching programs that I do, is let's get real. When you can get real, then we can actually deal with it. So once you're real, then once you're finally vulnerable enough to talk about what's really happening, sister, now we can go and deal with that. And we can sit in that sting for as long as we got to sit in there, no matter what. Like, let's deal with it. And that's the same thing when you're in the gym, right? You got to deal with the pain in order to grow the muscle. You got to deal with the pain in order to get the gain. And you got to sit there. You got to be willing to sit in that sting for however long that's going to be. You got to be willing to sit in that squat for a solid 2.5 minutes, maybe, to build that ass you want, girl. Like, and that's part of it. And that's why people give up so easily. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, wait, what? Like, you want me to, so you want me to go there. You want me to deal with that. Oh yeah, see, like, I love my life where I just distract myself constantly and actually just like forget about it. So never mind. And that's why only some people can handle the self-awareness. And if you're listening, I hope that's you. I hope that you're the one that says, like, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to make this happen. If that is, reach out to me, because I'd love to talk with you and work with you. And I offer free 30-minute calls just to see if that's something that speaks to you. I also, if you're like, oh no, like, I'm ready, like, I wanted to have a call with you, like, let's go. I do hour-long calls there. I call them clarity calls, where we just go through what it is that you're working on and processing. I help you speak your truth to that, and then give you some guidance and some homework that can help you stay accountable to that over time. And those are just amazing, fun calls. They're really powerful, really help you seek what you're seeking. But going back to it is, you got to get real. Then we can deal with it, right? Now we can figure out that process, how we're going to deal with this. And what does that look like for you? What do you want that to look like for you? What would you want that to feel like for you? Okay, so let's go there. How do we get there? And then that's when you're able to actually feel, because now you're like, oh, I can feel what that's going to feel like to get there. Like, wow, okay, I can feel this relief. I can feel this weight off my shoulders. I can feel what it's going to feel like to be connected to me again, to speak my truth again, to love on me, oh my God, I can love me. Do you know what that's going to change for me? Do you know how that's going to impact all my relationships? How that's going to help me show up better for my kids, for my family, for my work, for me? And you're like, yeah, totally, because I've been there, I get it. And then you're able to start to see how not doing that, how not speaking your truth, how not giving yourself that permission has shown up for you time and time and time again. And you've seen that movie, so let's stop playing the movie, right? And then that's when you're able to heal from it, because now you have the tool for when that trigger shows up. Oh, wait, I know how to heal from this. Oh, yep, it might be a whole new level. I thought I've already been there. Now it's just a new level of healing. Cool. I know I've done it before, so I can do it again. I can do hard things. I have the tools to do it. I have the guidance how to do it. I know how to ask for help. I know what it is that I'm needing right now because I've been here before, and I know how to speak my truth again. So that is my message for you today, is speaking your truth, because for me, has been part of my healing process. Again, sorry, I gotta drink some water. Through my divorce in just a different way, and I didn't even realize like different parts of it, but it was like I wasn't speaking my truth then, and now like part of those little cycles have shown up for me again in different things. And it's just like getting yourself to ask yourself hard questions again. I think that's the biggest thing, is when we just kind of go through it, we're not asking ourselves questions, we kind of stop our healing process. That doesn't mean that you always have to be like changing who you are, but it's like, and that something's wrong with you either. I don't think that's the case, but it's like, just always be focusing on being better. Like, have you reached your top? Like, no, you haven't. Your tap is undeniably, like, there is no ceiling, right? It's just how much you want to grow and how you're willing to get uncomfortable to grow with that. That's where it stops, is when you're unwilling to get uncomfortable. And I definitely know my ego comes up, and I stop being coachable in moments of my life, and I stop like taking advice, and then it hits me. I'm like, oh my God, like, hey, the same cycle, Stephanie, start asking again, start seeking this mentorship, start having people reach out to you. And then it's asking for that help. And I've had to ask for so much help lately that then it's made me just really learn how to trust myself different, because because I asked for so much help and I was the opposite. It made me feel like I was like so weak, because I couldn't like fix anything on my own. I needed like everybody. And so then that opposite part was like, okay, wait, I'm still just as powerful. And in fact, I'm more powerful because I'm allowing all these other people to show me how much they love me. And that is helping me see how much love is around me and supported in me. And I can also do this because I want to teach my kids how to be able to ask for help. I want to teach them how that they don't have to do it all on their own. I don't want, the kids learn through our actions more than our words. They watch what we do. And I know that to be so true, because how I like freak out and I'll go like this, I'm like, oh, like, because I just want to like smack my kids sometimes or whatever. And I'm like, Harper, I swear to God. And Ella does the exact same thing. Harper does the exact same thing. Like, they watch everything that you do, right? How I stand and pose in pictures, my kids do the exact same thing. When I get excited, like, it's all these different things they do like their way, but you can like see yourself in them. And I'm like, oh God, like, ooh, I do that a little too much. Okay, I gotta reel that in. Like, there's nothing like a mirror around you all the time to help you see the reflection that you're refusing to see. I think that's the beauty of being a parent, and like, it's the beauty of that, right? But they are the best mirrors for us, and we are the best mirrors for them. And that's powerful, is that I want to be the mirror for them, that all they see is how perfect they are. And I just want them to see what I see in them, And I want them just to see that their mom can do hard things, and their mom is okay to also ask for help, and their mom's also okay to break down, and their mom's also okay to have like the best day. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that I'm feeling the feeling in that moment. And I want them to know how to feel, so they can always be real for themselves. And that's so important to me. And there's parts of that I don't show them because they're not ready for all that, right? And that's up to me to choose, and that's part of my truth for that. But I want to always be real with them. I never want to pretend like everything's perfect or that it's just fine. I don't ever want them to say, I don't know, or I'm fine. I want them to always know what's going on and how they're feeling, and how they can check in with themselves, so they can always speak that. And that's something we use around here is, if Ella just gets frustrated or Harper gets frustrated, I'm like, hey, use your words. Use your words. Because if you can start to learn how to use your words, you're not going to learn how to survive and to shut those emotions down. You're going to start to understand, like, oh, this is what I feel right now. Okay, how can I understand this feeling? What's going on that's making me feel this way? And how can I grow from this, right? And it's okay to feel those feelings. We're meant to do that. We're freaking human. God, it's great. It's the beauty of it. So allow yourself to speak your truth. Allow yourself to be true to you. Get real so you can deal, so you can feel, and you can heal. And I just love you all so, so much. Thank you all so much for listening. Like I said, I have some awesome things for you guys too right now on my website. If you guys are interested in looking at group coaching or looking at how you guys can just do a call with me and experience that, whether that be a free call or you want to do a clarity call, I'd love to reach out and work with you on that. You guys can go to my website. It's coachingwithsteph.com. So just coaching with Steph, S-T-E-F. Make sure you spell that right, girlfriend. And go on there. You can even take my self-love quiz and just see and evaluate and check in with you and see, like, maybe that helps give you some guidance of where you're needing that self-love and where that's falling short in for you. And then I'd love for you guys to go on there and download my free journal that you guys can absolutely use and help you plan out your week. I'm a believer in that. Utilize that. Use my affirmations there that are there to help you with it. And I hope that just gives you guys some extra tools, because I'm all about giving you guys the tools to help you so that way you can continuously heal and you can grow. And I love you all. I see you all. I think you're all so amazing. Challenge yourself this week to speak your truth this week, even if it's just to yourself. Start to let that voice come up for you. I believe in you. I love you. You got this. Let's go.